Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, tonight with me live, Mr. Drew Crawley. Good evening,
Howdy,
Drew.
sir. Good evening. How are you?
I'm most excellent.
Good.
We've got just a couple of days left till Christmas. And so before I forget, let me wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. And happy holidays and happy New Year and all that wonderful stuff. So,
I'll cheers
Drew,
to that.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So tonight is our Whiskey of the Year show. We will recap some things from our Music of the Year show, which we released last Wednesday. So, but we wanted to have we want to make this super extra special. And in order to do so, we brought in Mike and Pat from My Whiskey Den. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. We're
Yes.
excited to be here during this
Yeah,
big reveal. Oh,
Excited.
and a rundown.
yeah. We've got a lot of territory to cover. We'll be tasting several whiskeys. We'll be talking about several more. But before we get into all of that, I want to tell you a little bit about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is just a group of friends that enjoy whiskey, that have a similar mindset when it comes to how to talk about, how to promote, what to value in the whiskey world. One show is Distiller's Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They will talk with distillers from across the country and around the world and do real deep dives into the whole distillation process. Alan also has another outfit show, franchise, what do you want to call it, called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. And that is where people can email Alan and ask him questions about distillation. And Alan does video responses to that and publishes those for everybody to take a look at. We have Pat and Mike with My Whiskey Den. They're with us tonight. And guys, you've got a very special show coming up tomorrow. You're usually on Monday nights, but you are on tomorrow. Tell everybody about this.
We're having our brandy bash tomorrow. It was going to be Monday, but every now and then a mule has an issue or breaks a leg, and it takes a little bit longer to get things where they need to be. So we had to put it off so that we have everything in the right spot. But we're going to be going over everything we tasted during Brandy Month, and our show typically focuses on whiskey, but we're starting to delve into some of the other spirits a little bit more because they really do need a deeper look into. And this is a plethora of what we had, and Shannon Hood and Kelly Tennille will be tasting that with us tomorrow evening.
All right.
Sure,
yeah. Be a great time.
Yeah, it will be a lot of fun. You guys with Shannon and Kelly. Yeah, that'll be great. Now
we will just be observers.
So we've already had a question in the chat. Let me find this here. Is Pappy 23 on the list? Maybe you'll have to stay tuned.
Entertainment, fitness.
Who is that? What was that?
Not
What'd you
I'm
do?
not sure. I just heard something crazy as well.
What's going on?
That's
Holy
Welcome to the live show.
Hey. All right. So, look, before we get into the whiskey side of things, we want to talk a little bit about last week's show and talk about the music side of things, because that's what we do. We do music, we do whiskey. So, on music, we had an album of the year and a song of the year. Drew, tell everybody about yours.
Yep. So my album of the year is actually sitting over my right shoulder. You can kind of see it you're seeing a graphic. But Zach Bryan, American Heartbreak was my album of the year. It can only be described as a prolific country and folk record. I believe there's 34 songs out of the 51 that have been released by Mr. Zach Bryan this year. So quite the extravagant release schedule for him, but love just all that album represents. It's kind of his first major label record after a couple of kind of smaller EPs that he'd done previously. And then my album of the year is his. Are we talking about song of the year yet?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, my song of the year was The Weakness by Rustin Kelly. So it's unreleased, but I have a Rustin Kelly album over my left shoulder tonight, just so you can see it. But fantastic song about kind of staying the path when it comes to recovery from addiction and things like that, and has been a very helpful and meaningful song to me. I'm looking forward to that coming out on his record early next year.
Yeah. And if you missed last week's show, we won't rehash it here, but lots of really good music waiting in the wings for us in 2023. So,
yes, indeed.
Yeah. As for myself, my album of the year was the Tedeschi Trucks Band, I Am the Moon. It is 24 songs in total and a little over 2 hours of music, but it was released in 4 separate albums throughout the summer, and it's fantastic. If you like music, you should like this album. And my song of the year was a song called "The Joy" by the Cold Stairs. It will be on their album, which is coming out on March the 10th, but the single has already been released. So, Pat, Mike, any thoughts on either of those albums or either of those songs or any of the artists?
I have not. I've not given myself time to listen to Rustin Kelly very much. On my list to listen to, because I do trust your judgment, Drew. I can talk a lot about the Tedeschi Trucks release, because that was probably my favorite thing all summer. Listened to it way too much, and according to Spotify, I was in like the top 2%.
I saw your breakdown on that. I think your top 5 songs were all off of that album. So and
I mean for good reason. It was just because, well, I think you said it on your show, is that there's always a difference between live and the album with people. At least it could be slight, could be great. Tedeschi Trucks Band is a live band, and they're a damn fine live band. You know, probably the best band touring, certainly the best 12-piece band touring, I would think. But they, the album was just, I mean, they just hit every possible note that they could hit with it. And it was a story, telling the story through there. I mean, whether it was, it wasn't blatantly telling you a story like a, 70s rock opera, but it went up and down through there. And I mean, there were times where it was just pure awe and joy and bring you to tears and everything just across those 4 albums. And it's just fantastic. And I just heard, they released the kind of rehearsal for I Can Hear You Smiling. I'm sure Kevin saw that. Oh my God. I mean, it's just,
they're as close to perfect as I think it gets. But, and if you've not seen them, if you've not listened to that album, while you're driving over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house for Christmas dinner, put it on, give it a listen. It's well worth it. And then they'll be touring again, I think, shortly after the first of the year back in the United States. So look for them in your neighborhood. And, speaking of touring, one of the things that we want to always promote on our show is going to see live music. And that doesn't mean that you're paying, I don't know what, thousands of dollars for Taylor Swift concert tickets and that kind of thing. Go see somebody in your neighborhood. Go see a live band where you are. Okay. There's more heart, there's more energy in that than you'll probably get in forking over, a car payment to go see somebody in some arena or stadium. So with that kind of thing in mind, we want to tell you a little bit about where you can find some of the folks that have been on our show. And we'll start with somebody that's always on our show, and that is Drew. So, Drew, this is kind of the show schedule you've got going. All
Yeah.
of these are in Louisville at different venues and different setups. So, tell everybody about that just a little bit.
Yep. So this is what we have coming up, kind of the first quarter of 2023. So January 7th, I'll be at O'Shea's in the Highlands with my band, the Wild Boys. We'll be playing from 10 to 2. I'll be at Watch Hill proper on January the 17th for their dinner service. Not really sure what that's going to look like yet because I've not been there before, but I'm sure it'll be a great time. If you've not been to Watch Hill proper, they have an excellent menu, just incredible food and some great whiskey list as well. The 20th and the 21st, I will be doing 2 nights at O'Shea's in the Highlands again. And that will be featuring several friends, both of myself and of the show. So both nights, I'm going to have about 3 special guests sit in. And they're different special guests every night. So if you don't have plans that week, come out. I'll be doing 2 nights at the Golden Nugget, one with the band, one solo, February the 3rd and February the 17th. I'll be back at O'Shea's in downtown. This is a different location for that one on March the 17th. That is St. Patrick's Day. We'll be playing a daytime set. So for those of you that don't like to come out starting for a show at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night, for whatever reason, that's a daytime show. So we'll be there 2:30 to 6 on St. Patrick's Day. And then March the 25th, 26th, I'll be back at O'Shea's in the Highlands for some solo shows. So lots of good music coming up. I'm super excited. We're gearing up to release a bunch more music next year, but also to kind of increase the amount that we're out and about live.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving that some time, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So if you're in the area, absolutely pick a date, pick a couple dates, go see him solo at one spot, go see him with a band at another. It is a different experience, as you might imagine, but it's all very, very good. He does some of his original work. He does some covers. It's a really good time. And another that we want to tell you about is our friends with Sweet Lady. Saw these guys back in August, I think, and they were opening for the Cold Stairs here in Louisville, and they were just high energy blues rock, man. So if you're looking for something to do and you're in the area, Loretto, Kentucky, that's a little south of Louisville. New Year's Eve, they're doing a show there. Evansville, Indiana on the 14th, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that show in a minute. They're back in Louisville on the 21st, in Danville, Kentucky on the 25th. You can go by, visit Pat Heist at Wilderness Trail, and then go see a show after. And one of the things they talked about when they were on the show with us was they're looking to expand beyond just the immediate Louisville area. So they're going to be in Cincinnati on March 3rd, and Lexington on March 4th, and then down in E-Town, Elizabethtown, Kentucky on March 17th. Follow them on Instagram, follow them on Facebook, and you'll get all the lowdown there. And then our friends, the Cold Stairs, Chris Tapp was on a show with us about, a month or two ago. And their new album comes out on March 10th. They've got a couple of shows that'll be going on in Evansville, 14th and 15th. The 14th show, Sweet Lady will be opening for them. And February 1st, they're playing the Canopy Club in Urbana, Illinois. Now, Pat, how far is Urbana from Green Bay?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, you need to find out. And
I gotta find out in a second.
I don't know if the Ewods are on tonight, but that might be in their neck of the woods. So I would highly recommend that. We saw him. Mike and I saw him this last weekend, and there we are. Our seats were not too far from that spot, actually. So
yeah, it was a fantastic show.
Yeah, they're fierce. They are fierce. So anyway, go see some live music. All right, go see live music. There's no replacement for it. Having a nice little pour of Wild Turkey 101 in your hand and listening to some good music, it's hard to beat. So, all right, well, let's get into some Whiskey of the Year conversation. That's why folks are here tonight, ostensibly. And Drew, we'll start with yours, and we'll start with what we're going to do is we're going to go through the nominations, and then the four of us are going to taste a couple from each of our 5 nominations. We're not ranking 743 whiskeys tonight.
Whew.
And
Will there be cliffhangers?
I don't know.
There was one already, right?
Will Pappy 23 be on?
It's a question. It's
Okay. Let me dispel with that right now. No, absolutely not. Don't know that I've ever had it, and don't really care that I'm missing out on that much.
Yeah.
5 or 6 year ago, me would envy Pappy 23. Me today would envy Pappy 23 so I could sell it. I'm just being honest. It just doesn't sound like it would appeal to me. But enough of what is not on the list. Let's start with what is on the list. And Drew, let's go with the first item on your list.
Yeah. So this is, I think, what everybody should be sipping on at this point. But my first nomination for this year's Whiskey of the Year was the Buzz of Drew Cigar Batch Rye, batch number 2. So this was, our friend Jason Bronner. We all love Jason as a human being, but man, if he isn't making some damn tasty whiskey as well. So this was a very special one that I've got to try a couple different times this year and really have fallen in love. So that was one of my nominees. Not that they're in any particular order, but this one stood out as being worthy of consideration and conversation this evening. What do you guys think of it?
I can see why.
Yeah. Yep. There is such a rich sweetness to batch 1 of the cigar rye. If you've had that, this one really, not that the other one isn't balanced, but this has got such a nice roundness to the palate. You get a little bit of the bubblegum thing, you get a little of the honey thing, but then just the tobacco and the rich spices, very much kind of in the pastry, bready kind of side of things. So I fell in love with this one the first time I had it. It also pairs great with some cigars. It pairs great with some Toblerone as well. Just a little word to the wise.
So I don't have batch 2. I've got my bottle of batch 1. And
Okay.
when I cracked it, I've been a fan. I've liked everything I've had from Buzzard's Roost. And I like what they're doing, and I love the transparency of it to the point where it's really not transparent. It's like, it's just, these are facts. It's like, I'm not revealing anything. I'm telling you facts. This is what we're doing. But when I first had it, my thought was, when I was nosing it, if you give this to me in a blind, I would think that you give me a very nicely done, small distillery craft American rye, just because of the flavors and everything that were coming off of it. But then you think, okay, he turned MGP 95.5 rye into this.
Right. Right.
Yeah. With planning and barrels. And has been doing it consistently, as he's been doing it. But this is, for people that like Bullet Rye or Dickel Rye or anyone else that's buying 95.5 rye from MGP, it's fine.
Yep.
But it's the same. This is head and shoulders above all of that stuff.
Agreed.
Yep.
That's so tasty.
Yeah. We have we recorded a show Sunday night with Jason. It'll be come out the first Wednesday of 2023. But they started with 3 barrels. They had one that they called their single barrel and 2 that they called their small batch. And so that's what they started with, was 3 barrels and 2 labels. And now I think they have 10 or 11 different labels, and they're going to narrow that down to 6 that will always be on the shelf, and then they'll do special releases throughout the year of some of the other items. But incredible success. So
I'm digging the finish on this. I'm letting that go, and besides it sticking around for a long time, it's one of the few that almost feels like you had a cigar. Like some people
Right.
call cigar blends and they get like some fruitier notes, and it doesn't. You don't get as much like a tobacco feel at the end. Your mouth, my mouth feels dry.
Right.
I was gonna say you're getting a nice like rye spice leftover and a couple other things. It actually feels like you may have had a cigar recently, which doesn't. I'm gonna be honest, doesn't usually happen when you have a cigar malt or cigar rye.
Right. One thing that I would love to see them be able to do, because all these barrels are proprietary for them, and the whiskey that they get from MGP, they're secondarily aging it in those proprietary barrels, so they're very lightly used barrels. I would love to see those secondary barrels get a secondary use, and find some places that can take that and kind of run with it. You know, I can see, you know, somebody like Lenny Eckstein out at Deerhammer. I can see somebody like Alan Bishop putting a apple brandy in one of those.
Yeah. I was gonna say if we don't get an apple brandy in the tobacco smoked barrels, I'm gonna be upset.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Calling the shot, Alan.
Hopefully that kind of thing happens. But all right, so we're going to keep sipping on this cigar rye for a little bit, and Drew, so move on to your second nominee for whiskey of the year.
Yep. So my second nomination was the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C922. I am a huge fan of Elijah Craig products just in general. That's not a surprise if you're a friend of mine or if you've listened to the show. But this particular one really hit a lot of what I look for in Elijah Craig. You got that big, robust mouthfeel that comes with a lot of the barrel proof. But then if you really start to break it down and sit with it over some time, there's some lovely like nutmeg spice to it. Very much reminds me of like a gingerbread type cookie. And this also dropped. Well, I was able to pick up a bottle. I don't know if it was out before, but I got a bottle and spent my birthday weekend on this one. So this was a special bottle, both for flavor profile and emotionally. Kind of one of those, the right bottle with the right friends, commemorating the right occasion.
Yep.
Just perfect for me this year. So that was my second nomination.
Yep.
Number 3 for me was the Iron Root Harbinger.
Before you go into that, you guys have any thoughts on the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof? I know Pat's a big fan of that.
Yeah, Pat?
You're muted, Pat. You're still muted.
You're still muted, Pat.
I don't know if that was me muting or someone else.
I didn't mute you. No,
I know. I'm just teasing.
Not this time.
But yeah, that's a common misconception that I have any dislike for Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I actually find it quite nice, and it's usually, and by God curse me, it's usually at a reasonable price for a really nice barrel proof. You know, I feel like I did something wrong there by saying that, because anytime you say that, it just goes through the roof. But it deserves credit. I mean, so I agree with putting that one on the list. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Do you concur?
I agree, sir.
Yeah. All right. So, Mike, any thoughts on that? Are we ready to move on?
I have not bought an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof in a while, at least one of their standard releases. The last one that I got was somebody else's single barrel pick of that, which I enjoy thoroughly. I like them. I don't chase them. And honestly, I don't see them on the shelf that often to even think to go and get it. Cause like Pat said, when I would see them on the shelf, you'd see it for $50-$55 sometimes. It's like, that's a pretty good deal. And sometimes, you know, the proof is just a nice slap. And sometimes you want that, you know, you want that big punch, that big flavor and that proof slap. So yeah, I'm not opposed to them. I don't see them that often. I don't chase them.
Yep. Okay. All right. Drew, number 3.
Good. Yep. Sorry for jumping the gun there. So my third is going to be the Iron Root Harbinger. I know we are all fans of the Licorice family and what they're putting out. But the thing I love about the Harbinger is it was kind of my introduction to good Texas whiskey. Without naming names, you know, I was fortunate to taste a few other kind of big name Texas producers, and this is the first one that kind of made me reconsider. Oh, there might be something worth exploring here. And so this one, was kind of a gateway for me into the wonderful world of Texas craft whiskey, and it is readily available. I love the flavor profile. It's got a really delicious, and I mean this in the best way. It's got a good sharpness. A lot of times when we go to these tasting events, you can sit there and have the same kind of things, and your palate starts to get dull. This one is a great one to kind of sharpen you right back up, and pick up that kind of surprise factor. The other thing I love about it is I can get on the GoPuff app and have it at my door in about 15 minutes. So that has come in handy on more than one occasion this year. So, yeah.
I know you guys are fans of Iron Root as well. Any thoughts on Iron Root or Harbinger?
Well, I currently have a beef with Robert Licorice, so I won't bring that up.
You don't disrespect the family.
Yeah. No, I don't think that the licorices could screw up a release if they tried. I think that they put so much into what they're doing as far as crafting, and I said it the other night. I think how they make things is similar to if you had a fine woodworker making you furniture. They will go above and beyond and do small little details that will make all the difference in the world in the finished product. And they're doing it on everything that they put out.
Harbinger, the destroyer of Wednesday work days. Well,
you see that Indiana public school education coming out great with the spelling of Wednesday there too.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, Alan's not here to defend himself. I should be nicer.
It is Wednesday, and so anyway. After all,
have you had any of their other products? Would be my only other question, Drew.
Yes, definitely. I'm a fan of the other ones. They just haven't played nearly as present of a role in my life and tasting this year. But yeah, I think Mike and Kevin and I shared quite a bit of some Iron Root products when Mike was here for Bourbon on the Banks. So yeah, we're big fans. And I'm a fan of just about everything that they do. So yeah.
Do you think that the Harbinger, the reason that you like it more is because I know you have that you try lots of different whiskeys, you're out and about, but you are in the heart of so-called bourbon country, and you've been around a lot of bourbon. Do you think it's because it's close to that wheelhouse?
I think that definitely plays a fact or an effect in that. Most definitely there is something to that, but what they are able to accomplish in carving out a very specific niche in terms of flavor profile, like if you put that up against a Kentucky bourbon and an Indiana rye and any of the other 5 things that we all kind of rotate through here, that one's going to stand out. And so they're able to accomplish with very similar ingredients and grain bills and all that kind of thing, something really unique. So that one definitely, it's not too off profile, but it stands out on its own for me.
Okay, bye. The apple brandy told me to, Drew. Well, you never do not listen to the apple brandy, so
that's right.
We'll take. There is no spell check with apple brandy. No, I everything I've had of theirs I've enjoyed. I've got a couple of bottles sitting there that our good friend Shannon is supposed to pick up for me at some point. No rush, Shannon. We're in no hurry, but I'm looking forward to trying those, and I'm sure that conversation about those will show up on a show at some point as well. So, all right. So that's what is that? 3 down?
That's 3. Yep.
All right.
And then 4th nomination for me was the Deer Hammer American Single Malt. That was the port cask finish. I know everyone on the panel this evening is a big fan of that one. So that was from Lenny out in Colorado, and just blew me away. I am awakening to the wonderful world of American Single Malt, and in my estimation, that is sort of the standard for that. So of everything I've tried this year, that one really stood out.
I haven't had that one, but last year the one that was finished in a mead barrel ranked very highly.
Mhm.
It didn't clinch for me last year. It was a wonderful finish. So
Can
the
you-
base
can-
is also fantastic.
Can you put your graphic back up, Kevin? Okay, with that logo on there, it looks like a 70s European prog rock album cover.
It kind of does,
And
doesn't it?
that's a compliment. Deerhammer.
Deerhammer. Yes, yes. The funny thing is that people used to call Lenny Deerhammer. And is there a cooler name for a prog rock band than Deerhammer?
I know.
I think you're onto
Pretty
something.
cool.
I think you're onto something.
You need a side project there, Drew?
Yeah, maybe. I'm a big metalhead, so yeah. Oh, that's good.
Oh, funny. All right, so that is through 4 of them, and I think we've got one more for you, correct?
Yep. 5th nomination, and again, these are in no particular order, was the Brooklyn Distilling American Single Malt. So this is one that Kevin was kind enough to introduce to me earlier in this year. We were over in his basement doing a little brainstorming and drinking, which brainstorming is just what we tell the ladies we're doing. We're just drinking in Kevin's basement. But this one, I think, was affectionately referred to as a knee buckler.
Yes.
This is just a toffee bomb, just sweet, baking, like pastry aromatic type thing. Almost reminds me of kind of like a baklava, but just like honey pastry kind of a thing. And it was love at first sip on that one. So had to make the list for sure. I've yet to be able to pick up more than one bottle of it. So hopefully Blake down at Sealbox will be putting some of that back in stock next year, and I'll be able to get a case. But until then, I am nursing the one that I have.
Yeah, I'm not above harassing people about releasing bottles. So I asked Blake about it fairly regularly. Hey, when are you going to get that Brooklyn single malt back in? And so we'll see.
Fun.
All right. So that is Drew's list of 5. Let me throw up a graphic here so everybody can see what that list is. Of course, it's in a completely different order. But Mike, Pat, any thoughts on the list?
Well, that Brooklyn, yeah, I lucked into a bottle of that too. Knee buckler is a good way to put it. It's just a big bottle of wow. I mean, all of it with it's a different kind of, I talked about a slap earlier. It's a different kind of slap. It is a flavor slap, and the proof, it's got a nice proof to it. A compliment, which if you knew him, it would mean more, but a good friend of mine is a chemist, and he's worked in breweries and he does consulting with distilleries and so on. Like Scotch, and he likes rye, not a bourbon guy, is getting into a little bit of American single malt or discovering it. I give him that because every time I give him something, he deconstructs the nose like a chemist would right off the bat, and then he starts deconstructing the palate. He was speechless when he had that. And he just went on. It's like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And he was extremely impressed with it, which, and it's just tasty as hell.
Yeah. We had the Brooklyn wheat whiskey on the wheat whiskey show we did with the Bar Cart Co-op, which Pat and Mike were on with Steve Coombs and Alan Bishop and Lisa Wicker. And everybody pretty much raved about that as well. So
that's what I remember. I'm like, it was delicious. So no, I haven't had enough chances to try the rest of their stuff, at least around here. But it's definitely one that left an impression. Obviously, like it did with you guys. Is one of the few this year I can say that did that.
Yeah. Okay, so any other thoughts, Pat, on Drew's list?
I don't see any bad choices in there.
Yeah.
All very solid.
There's
There's definitely two or three that would be on my list. I need to spend some more time with this cigar rye though. Just having that now versus the other ones, I find that interesting. But I don't have the the American single malt you just mentioned is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel like trying to see if I have a leftover sample in my samples here of it right now.
Well, we might know some people that could send you a bottle, so we
Yeah.
can talk about
Yep.
that after the show.
Yeah, I think that can be arranged. All right. So, Drew, I like your list, and as we go through my list, I think that we'll see that we've got some overlap there. Hey, while I'm thinking of it, we're building a swag closet. Okay, so the first thing in it are guitar picks, and so we're gonna do some things with that. This was a trial run at it, kind of see how we liked them, both in aesthetically and functionally. So if you'd like some guitar picks, let me know, and we'll find a way to get you some. And we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it. But look for some Bourbon Turntable swag in your future.
I will say that the guitar picks work great. I used them for both gigs this past weekend.
Mhm.
They work perfectly.
Good.
Didn't break any, didn't lose any, which that's kind of the two main things I look for.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to go over my Whiskey of the Year nominees. There's one that would have been on the list, except it's in a blank bottle. This is from the distillery of Reverend Thomas Green, and smoked corn whiskey.
Son of a bitch. Yeah.
Count your blessings. So that's what anyway, that may have been one of the finest things that I had during the course of the year. But we don't really have a label for it, and it's not necessarily available. It's probably as available as Pappy 23 or William LaRue Weller. But
I'm going to say yes.
You got to know a guy.
At any rate, moving on, the first nominee that I have on my list is this Solomon Scott Rye from Alan Bishop, who is the driving force and creative mastermind, evil genius at Spirits of French Lick. So, guys, I think you have a pour of the Solomon Scott Rye.
I do.
Yep. It is 60% rye, 35% corn, and 5% malt. And it is named after Solomon Scott, who was the master distiller at Daisy Mill Distillery in Southern Indiana, the Black Forest of Southern Indiana. So that is number one. I'll let you guys sip a little bit while we move along to some of the others, and then we'll come back to that. Get your tasting notes. Wild Turkey 12. This was, for some folks, it may have been a little difficult to get, but if you tried, you could find it. It is, we had David Jennings, who is Rarebird 101. If you follow him at all on like Twitter or Instagram, we had him on the show around Thanksgiving, coincidentally, and we talked about this specifically. And I think the consensus is Wild Turkey 12 is like Wild Turkey 101 with enhancements. It takes all the great flavor profiles, the things that you might enjoy about Wild Turkey 101, and it just amplifies it. And I really enjoy that one. Guys, any thoughts on Wild Turkey 12? Have you had it? I know, Drew, you have.
I have not, but how would you compare it in the family tree of 101 and Rare Breed?
Compare it in the family tree, and how do you mean?
Well, or at least as far as comparison between 101 and Rare Breed. You said it's like 101 with enhancements, but between those three.
Okay. Well, I think you're. Hang on a second. Well, I don't have it down here. What an idiot. It's not as higher proof as Rare Breed is. It's just basically 101 that's been aged longer. And and again, when you're saying 12-year, that's the minimum age of what's in that bottle. You're just getting a more intense vanilla, a more intense caramel, and it just plays really well. I think, and I would put it up there against any of the Master Keep releases over the last few years, and I think there's been some good ones.
Yep, agreed. I'd just say ditto to that.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
Is it a little more aggressive than Russell's? Sorry, just staying in
No.
turkey.
More aggressive than no, I wouldn't think so.
I just didn't know. I mean,
I guess it depends on if you're talking about a Russell's store pick or if you're talking about the Russell's with the little white label that's $35.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's significantly better than what you would just the $35-$45 that you get off the shelf. I think that there are probably some Russell's store picks out there that would stand up toe to toe with this pretty well. But I'm a fan of Wild Turkey 101. It's kind of my bar go-to, and if I'm having trouble deciding what I want to drink tonight, that a lot of times is a default. So
I think it's underrated at a bar like that. You go to like weddings and stuff, and you get a lot of times you don't get stuff that's very good, and if you get that, it's like, well, at least I can go here for something solid,
I think Emily kind of nailed it. They turned the volume up. Wild Turkey 12 up to 11. Yes. This one goes to 11. It's one louder. Let's see. What did I have next? Let's see. Let me find my graphic here. My next one is the Yellowstone. Hang on a second. There it is. The Yellowstone family recipe from Limestone Branch. It is the first mainline release of entirely Limestone Branch distillate. It is 6 years old. It is family. They call it family recipe for a reason. It's distilled by Stephen Beam, who is the master distiller at Limestone Branch. It is on a mash bill designed by Guy Beam, and it uses the yeast from Minor Case Beam, and that mash bill is 75% white corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. So, and we had Stephen Fonte on the show, and Pat, I think you were the guest host with us on that show when Fonte was on.
I believe I was, and then we saw him too, so it's hard to turn that down.
Yeah. But that one's pretty special, I think, and we'll kind of circle back to that in a minute. My fourth one is, well, actually my next two are in common with Drew's. The Cigar Rye from Buzzard's Roost. It's just something that for me, sitting on the deck, you have a pour, you have a drink, and it's one of those that has just enough of those tannic or drying features to it that it makes you say, you need another drink. And,
yes.
Which that can be dangerous, but we always practice safe drinking, right? And then the last one is the Deer Hammer port cask finish from American Single Malt port cask finish. So my list is, got so many graphics in here. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I only laugh. I love when it gets stacked like that.
Yep. So those are my five, again, in no particular order. Any thoughts?
That's a solid list.
Damn good list, man.
Yeah, and I like how each of you kind of went into the standard realm, and then also, obviously our show loves craft whiskey. So,
Right.
But I like how you both reached back to that, because a lot of times, even for me, I don't have enough standard releases anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm at the point where maybe I should watch some of those other videos, because I haven't tasted it. No, but seriously, Mike, very rarely do I try kind of standard release stuff anymore. Like that's
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see you guys, included that and went through that in the process this year too.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to try them too, to be honest.
Sure.
I didn't really have a whole chance to try the 12-year-old, so
Yep.
I'm intrigued by that.
I know we're going to try to circle back to the Solomon Scott Rye here in just a minute and get tasting notes and stuff, but I did want to point out about the Yellowstone. We talk a lot about no skips, no misses on the show, and usually that's about albums. But I would just like to say Limestone Branch and Yellowstone doesn't have a single thing in their lineup of expressions or brands that I would pass up. Every single thing that they've released up until this point has just been exemplary and well worth your time and money. So not that we need to write a whole love letter to the Beams and to Fonte tonight, but they are worthy of your admiration and your dollars. So if you're going to spend some money, spend it there. I would say for sure that's a safe bet.
Yep. Yep. And a fun tour. And when there's good weather, that patio there is a wonderful place to just hang out after a tour and have a cocktail or a pour of something. And you never know. I mean, Steve Beam's there a lot. Fonte is there some as well. So you never know. You may run into them in the process. So
they even grow some of their own gin stuff on site, like that. And they have Boston Ivy they stole from Fenway Park.
Yes. Yeah. Mike, any thoughts?
No, that's a great list. The only thing I haven't had is the Wild Turkey 12. But I'm a fan of the Wild Turkey products. It's you can't go. I don't think you can go wrong. And I'm like you. 101 it's a standard. It's great. I like. It's good to drink. It's really good to cook with. It's a really good alternative or a base for a lot of things when you're cooking too. It's just a great whiskey.
Yeah. I think Brian and I were drinking that on Friday night. I think he drank.
Somebody was drinking. Somebody was
a good bit more than what I did, but that's a different story for a different day.
Yes.
And we have this comment. Thank you very much, Nancy. Thank you for being here, and you were absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So, all right. So we've gone through my list of nominees, and we've gone through Drew's list of nominees. But before we get into our first winners, let's talk some about this Solomon Scott Rye that was on my nomination list. So, guys, what do you think?
Alan, don't miss, man. Not to jump the gun, but it is just absolutely fantastic rye whiskey. A welcome departure from some of the standard Indiana rye releases, but like everything he does, it kind of has his fingerprints on it. When you taste a spiritual French lick product, you can tell. And I mean this not in a critique of other brands, but oftentimes you have a signature flavor profile that shows up as faults or defects, maybe. Allen's stuff has none of that, right? And so this is another just excellent release, and I apologize for not having it on my list. But it was just an exemplary thing. It's got a delicious kind of spice component to it that differs from your typical dill, rye spice and things like that. The spice definitely comes through more as a baking spice or a heavier aromatic. I love the kind of wood notes that come from it. And again, I'm gonna gush and say too many nice things about Alan and inflate his ego even more, but it's incredible. Nicely done, Alan.
Pat, what do you think?
Well, when you're mentioning like a note that comes across on on stuff from Spirits of French Lick, there is this in the middle of this. There is like a little bit of like this musty note, like that dunnage note, with what they use. So I'm getting a lot of the rich notes you're talking about in the corn, and it has the corn kind of softens up, and then that maltiness kind of just hits in there just a little bit at the back end for me. Sorry, I went back to sniffing it instead of drinking it. You guys started me all over. But yeah, it's really nice, rich, dense brown sugar, molasses, bacon spice, a little bit of cardamom, but it doesn't go over the top, and it stays in the middle of my tongue. Like the sides are a little more dulled, and almost get a little more chocolatey notes on the sides rather than on the top. Is where it's kind of splitting for me right now.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I'm like Drew. I'm a fan, so I mean, spoiler alert. I'm a fan of Spirits of French Lick. I'm a fan of what Alan does. I like how there's with the products that he has, there's no one note to it. There are definite layers to it. You're not just going to get a rye whiskey. You're going to get a rye whiskey that has a flavor journey to it, and you can tell, as well as I say, respect the grain. Yep. You're gonna get to taste all of that in there. But there's just like those little added details to it, that that just make all the difference in the world. But this rye, the first thing that I get on the nose on the palate is like a French vanilla or vanilla cream, which on a rye is that's not what I expect. But and I was writing down what I was getting tonight as I'm tasting in a 40-degree basement, because that makes everything different. But French vanilla and vanilla cream, and then the citrus oak and a little bit of pepper, and then I was getting a lot of the same notes on the palate, and berries on top of that. Yeah. And it's just a good whiskey. It's if you can say underrated for something that's popular, I mean, it really is. I think it's underrated, and I think Indiana has more to offer in rye whiskey than what you get out of the big distillery. There are other small distilleries making really good rye, and this is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got you get the rye in there with the grain and everything, but then there's layers of citrus that come out of it as well. There's some very rich vanilla that's involved with it, a little bit of oak there. And one thing with this is Alan aged the rye 5 years when everybody else was releasing a 2-year rye, a 3-year rye. He zigged when everybody else zagged and waited to release the rye at 5 years. And it paid off. And again, as craft whiskeys go with things that are older, let's say, a lot of times they're distilled in a manner that we're planning on this being aged less amount of time. But this is, you can tell that some care went into this, because it is not oaky by any means. Now there's some nice sweet oak there, but it's not, a punch in the face with a 2x4 kind of wood in it.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. I would also just toss this out there. Not sure if Alan would recommend this or not, but if you got some Stave & Bean coffee and some Solomon Scott rye, the next 2 days while we're all pretending to work, make sure you grab some of that and combo it up. It's a great way to start your morning. For an Irish coffee is incredible.
Weird thought of marketing for Indiana, since they are rye, instead of being the Bourbon Trail, why not be the Rye Road?
The Rye Road.
I'm just pitching something. I mean, they do have a couple places that'd be worth stopping at, and whatever MGP is now is kind of taking their own stance for the future with releasing their own stuff. So I Just
Yeah.
saying.
Well, there's a whole lot of labels that have that MGP 95.5 rye in it that don't do anything to it except put it in a bottle with a different label. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, it not saying that that's bad rye. It isn't. It's good. It's very good. But I like it when somebody does something with it, like what Jason and Buzzer Drews does. That to me, you're adding something to what you bought, what you sourced, and to me that's pretty important. So,
Putting your stamp on it.
exactly. How are you different? How are you different? And all right, so we've gone through the nominations, and so Drew, your whiskey of the year is.
My whiskey of the year is the Deer Hammer Port Casket Finish. So I believe you all have a sample of that. Now is probably the time to pour it if you got an empty glass. Would love to hear your thoughts on that one. But just hats off to Lenny and the team over at Deer Hammer. This was a kind of shocker for me. When we had Lenny on the podcast a few months back, I really had no concept of American single malts outside of a couple of less than ideal ones. And he really turned that entire category around and encouraged me through that show to explore in that category. So I'm just a huge fan, both of him as a person and this whiskey in particular. It's just delicious. I'll leave the tasting notes to you guys, but just cheers to Lenny and his whole team because this is incredible stuff.
Let's absolutely. Lenny did a fantastic job with this. Something with a port finish is not necessarily something that I will reach for with other options, but this is as good as it gets. Alan did Unpretentious a couple of years ago, which was also a port finish, which was fantastic. I've had some port finishes other than those that I did not care for that much. But for a port cask finish American single malt to be in my list of nominations is pretty. It's pretty off profile, and for it to be a Drew's Whiskey of the Year, I think is a little off profile as well. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, most definitely. Yep. The other thing I'll say on this, and I don't want to cut off Mike or Pat, but this has such a respect for the grain in it. You can really tell the grain profile, but it is dialed up in a new way. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Mike?
No, my quick note is the thing I love because I think Lenny uses chocolate malt in everything or most everything, but I like how that carries over on all of his stuff, and it's just again everything I've had of his. If it hasn't been, where I've thought this is great, it's at least taken me on a nice flavor adventure with there, and I've enjoyed everything that I've gotten to try of his. It's another one. The port is not overly done, as they say. It's not obnoxious. It's complementary to the whiskey itself. It's very enjoyable. Lenny Deerhammer makes good things.
Yeah.
Lenny Deerhammer.
Big berries, chocolate. Oh man.
Yeah, Shannon agrees. Tons of chocolate notes.
Yeah.
It's when I was just nosing it before I tasted it, it was how sometimes, like you're saying, sometimes the port can be a little too much where it was clearly like a super wet barrel and stuff, and it's just a port bomb where they can be fun in their own right, but I mean it's not a neat marriage where this is when you get to taste it, you can tell where the blending happened. I'm going to tell you, it almost doesn't even feel like there was a first cask in it, like some scotches and when you're going with single malts, almost feel like they didn't have a cask involved. You get that light bit of it, but that second note is like this nice, almost like a second layer but none of them are overpowering. It's nicely layered between them. This is really neat.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if you are interested, you can go to deerhammer.com. They do sell and ship from their website. If this is something you'd like to try, I would encourage you to try it. It is a part of their base lineup now, and yeah, just highly encourage you to give this a try.
Yep.
Again, if you're like me and you're not a big fan of port finishes or finishes in general, or if you've not really delved into a lot of American single malt, check out Deer Hammer when he's over there in Buena Vista, Colorado, and just really doing some fantastic stuff over there. And he was a lot of fun to have on the show. We had Nancy Fraley on the show and did a blind tasting of this with her, and she had rave remarks about it as well. So I think that is a pretty solid stamp of approval. But all right,
Yep.
So we can kind of keep sipping on this for a little bit, and then we'll get back to my whiskey of the year. But let's go off on a little side topic for a moment, and let's talk about what was most surprising to you this year.
Mm.
It can be a whiskey that you tried and you didn't really expect it to be that good, or it could be an event that occurred, or we had a lot of distilleries sell. We've had a lot of movement between one distillery and the other, people starting new brands. What was the most surprising thing to you guys?
I was going to say all the distillery selling, because it was like being a baseball fan and August comes around and it's a fire sale of all of your stuff.
Right.
Everybody's moving around, getting traded. And it just seemed like it wasn't going to end for a while. That was probably the most surprising, and some of the sales. Wilderness Trail, I thought that was kind of surprising.
Yep.
But yeah, very interesting. And Balcones was another one.
Yep.
I would not have thought they would have ever done that.
Well, I think that with the bigger names doing that, and the investment that you've seen in the industry in the past year, where a lot of places 600 million, 250 million,
Yep.
People are reinvesting in that. I lived this before. It's almost as if that top end wants to push back for the shelf space. If you're going to keep the system, it's like we're going to take some more up. We're going to give you the 4 options someone else was giving you that we weren't in the past. Maybe not now, but in 5 years. You're moving up from what people were doing in insane amount before, in my mind. I mean, impressive, but I mean, with what you're putting in, you're really, America likes to drink. So
Yeah. Well, that's a question I wanted to ask you guys. So because for a while I've been hearing about the bourbon bubble is going to burst, you say that many times fast, but it's going to burst. But with, 2020 and 2021,
Right.
and it really seemed like people's consumption went up. And I wonder if that is what changed a lot of it, that they're like, well, it doesn't look like this is going away.
Right.
And because if it was going to burst, why would you have these acquisitions for that much money? That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess here, Balcones in our local liquor store, they have like almost a full lineup. They take up 6-7 spots. It's not just the 1 or 2. They demanded help. A quarter shelf.
Right.
And rightfully so. And it was reasonably priced. At least here at the Woodman's, where you can find weird deals every now and then. Sometimes not.
Yeah. Drew, what did you find surprising this year?
Yeah, I think surprising for me was more of a personal thing, just kind of the influx or the appreciation for American single malts. Mm-hmm. Not something I ever would have expected, but I'm really excited about some of the coming legislation on that category. I think that'll be a great one. Yep. Cocktails were another big surprise for me, and this is kind of specific to Louisville, but there has been a lot of fantastic cocktail spaces open up, close, reopen up, be sold, all that kind of stuff this year. But just seeing some of these classic bourbon cocktails come back through, things like the Paper Plane, things like, the Old Pal. I'm starting to see some of these things come back that I haven't seen since, Mr. Boston's book that I read 5 years ago, kind of a thing. So that's been really exciting. Obviously, you guys mentioned the distillery acquisitions and all that stuff. But I think those two things have kind of popped out as surprises for me this year, was the American single malt and kind of the resurgence of classic bourbon cocktails beyond your old fashioned in Manhattan.
Yeah. Speaking of cocktails, I don't know if Dave and Adina are on tonight, but the Ewalds, Dave Ewalds, Adina Ewalds, they're doing an advent of cocktails. Yeah. Okay. And this isn't just like, here's how you make a Manhattan. These are things that are expertly crafted. They have expertly crafted themselves, things that they've designed themselves. And good. It's like, you need an engineering degree to figure out how to make some of these things, but they look fantastic, and they put a lot of care and thought into how these things are made. So if you don't follow them on Instagram, look up Dave Ewalds. That's EWALDZ, and I spelled that correctly after having a few pours here. So look up Dave or Adina, and Adina is ADINA. If you can't spell Dave, you've had too much to drink. But look them up on Instagram. Catch up with what they've been doing for the month of December. It's nothing short of remarkable. Really, really impressive. I hope they'll somehow pull that all together and put it in something that we can,
like a calendar,
memorialize. Yeah.
Coffee table book. Anyone?
Yep. Yep. So they're doing some fantastic stuff. To me, some of the things that were surprising, one we've already talked about, was this Deer Hammer port cask finish. I've always enjoyed the stuff that Lenny makes. I was a little leery about a port cask finish because, again, that's just not something that I usually gravitate towards. But it was fantastic. Really, really fantastic. Fortuitous Union is a brand from our friend Turner Wathen over at Rolling Fork Spirits. He blended sourced rum with sourced rye and finished it. I believe he finished that in a rye cask. No. He finished that in a bourbon cask. I think he has some Weller casks that he used to finish and age that blend together. I wasn't really sure what that would be like, but it's incredible. It is really, really sharp. And so Turner, he's going to be on the show again sometime early 2023, and we'll be able to talk with him some more about that. But he does some really fun stuff with rum. If you haven't checked out Rolling Fork Spirits, you should do that. If you like rum, great. If you're a bourbon drinker, it's a bourbon drinker's rum world with Rolling Fork. And Rolling Fork is also on Sealbox, so it's easy to get that way if they're not in your local stores. The other thing that surprised me was this Borrowed Page blend. What Devin and Chase from American Mash and Grain did is really bold and ambitious. We did a show on the Bar Cart channel a month or so ago. Well, it's actually earlier this month, where we had the four distillers that were involved. We had Whiskey Delbach. We had a Wiggle Whiskey up in Pittsburgh. We had Watershed Distillery in Columbus, Ohio, and Alan Bishop, obviously from Spirits of French Lick. Those were the four distilleries that provided the base whiskeys for this blend. And I was not really sure, okay, how is this all going to really come together? Because you've got four different whiskeys from really, different areas, from different, and those whiskeys are made specifically for their product. How's that going to really play in a blend? But they knocked it out of the park. You can go to mashandgrain.com. That's MASHN grain, and you can find it You can buy it from them. I think it's $75, and it's a bargain. I think people will really enjoy it. So those are the things that I found surprising this year.
Yep. Agreed. I've still got to get a hands on a bottle of that borrowed page. Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. So if your Meemaw gives you some Christmas money this year, that'd be a good use of it. That'd be really good use of it. All right.
I'm intrigued by the rum and the rye. Just seems like you could hit a lot of the spice notes in that category by blending those.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's so good, man. So good.
Yeah, that has this point.
It should be.
He is not wrong. Shannon Hood, I need a Meemaw. Yeah.
Me too.
we all need a Meemaw to give us whiskey money, right? I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother had that, anytime, come down with a little bit of a cough or starting to get a cold, she'd reach down underneath the kitchen sink and she'd pull out a bottle of some whiskey. I don't know what it was. And she'd take that and pour it in a glass and put some lemon in there and mix it up. Here, drink this. And that was medicinal. So
that's the way her prescription read in the past.
Everybody ought to love their Meemaw. So
that's what mine used to do too.
Okay. All right. So let me tell you what my whiskey of the year is. How about that?
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yeah. My whiskey of the year is Yellowstone Family Recipe. And part of the thing that appealed to me about this, one, it's really, really good. And guys, you've got a sample, so go ahead and pour that, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes. I love the family aspect of it. It's not just I don't think it's just a gimmick. I trust Steve Beam enough that if he says that they found this mash bill of Guy Beam, that they found that, and that the donut jug that they had that was Minor Case Beams when they took it to Pat Heist at Firm Solutions and he tested it, that was in fact the Minor Cases Beam yeast. And so the family history, the bourbon history involved in this is powerful. But if you are a fan or you have bought bottles of the other Yellowstone products, this is a significant departure. And I enjoy the Yellowstone, like those Yellowstone single barrels and stuff. They're fantastic. They're sourced, but they're fantastic. They're great picks. Tip of the cap to Stephen Beam for picking those. But and they really had a nice, fairly consistent profile. Every one of the single barrels was different, as you would expect, but there was also a thread of similarity there. This family recipe is very different.
Yes.
To me, that you got brass balls to take that kind of a risk. Okay. To say, hey, Bourbon Public, we're going to take the label that you're used to seeing, and we're going to put a completely different kind of whiskey in it. That's what they've done. And I love that approach. I love the boldness there. To me, that took a lot of courage to do, and they don't back away from it. They don't shy away from it. So that is my choice for whiskey of the year. I think you guys have some of that in front of you now. If you need a minute to sip and think, we can move on to another topic.
It's incredible. I'll go ahead and caveat my fandom once again for the Yellowstone lineup. I think I made my point earlier in the show, but what I love about this one in particular is we're all big fans of the malted rye releases from Limestone Branch that are no longer with us, sadly. But there's a common thread in this one that I just leap for joy with. It is the peach ring candies that you used to get at the gas station and the cinnamon red hots. It's this beautiful balance of fruit and spice that is just so delightful. I don't know if that's a yeast strain thing that brings out that commonality, but it's very, very well balanced between those two things. I'm sure there's nuances that I'm not able to get to at this point, but that peach ring note that is kind of running through a lot of their 100% malted rye expressions, and then this one as well, is just so good. And I, would also commend their braveness or boldness or whatever word you want to use on making this release public.
Yep.
Wow. This is quite, it's not substantially different, but it's kind of like they took the standard and then they were like, you guys want to try something kind of fun? And I was writing down notes as nosing and tasting it, but I got like warm cooked corn, caramel, almond, leather, and then I got a hot licorice candy is what on the nose, but the palate is what killed me, because it was, the cooked corn, caramel, and then this hit of musty leather. But it was so good. It wasn't right. It was like this really nice funk to it. And then clove, and then at the end I was getting peanut brittle on the palate. And which could be the time of the year too. But this is really good. I mean, this is fun, because this is not it's like parts of bourbon that you like, and they put them together. I like these flavors on this.
Okay, and this might just be me, because I'm getting this touch of like a vegetable note that almost tastes like a mint leaf, like a crushed mint leaf is in this. I'm just a little bit in the back, more in the background. It's like it comes out in like the last third for a second and then fades away in the finish for me. When like that explosion of flavors happened, that's on the back side, and that's just it's making it super interesting for me, because I'm not used to that, like that part in here, but it's got a lot going on.
Shannon says smells like fall. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great bonfire whiskey.
Yeah. So, and when we had Fonte on the show, we asked him, is this going to be a recurring release? And he said, I don't know. So I don't know either. Well, if he doesn't know, I'm sure as heck not going to know. But point being that in the I don't know, 5 or 6 months since we had him on the show, I've not read anything that says this is going to be an annual release. They are still available in the tasting or in the tasting room in the gift shop at Limestone Branch. They're also available at Yellowstone National Park. So I don't know if there's further distribution than that, but that's what I know about where you can get it. So if you are in the Bluegrass State, you ought to go to Limestone Branch anyway. But go there, pick up a bottle of this. You will not be disappointed. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at it. And do it if you've got a Yellowstone single barrel. I don't care where you got it from or when you got it. Do it side by side with this. See what that's like, because it is different. It is very different. But I enjoy both. And this is just I just can't say enough about how much I respect the approach that they took in this. They didn't try to mimic what they were doing before. They did not. They didn't go through and we're going to rebrand everything. No,
Mhm.
they went. They pushed ahead, and they've got a fantastic product here. So,
Yeah.
Agreed.
that is my whiskey of the year. So, any Pat, Mike, any thoughts on these choices?
The top of the list, I was going to say that port cask was nice. I like the Yellowstone family. Out of the ones you sent me here,
Yep.
I'd probably lean the Deer Hammer one, but I'm going to say the cigar one, the way my mood is lately.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one, like, I'd say for right now, this month, maybe this next couple of weeks, or next week, maybe,
Yep.
is where I'm at with that. I'm going to be honest, by the time I hit Christmas, I'm going to break out the Deer Hammer one again. Just because of the fruit and the chocolates and everything
Yep.
going on in there.
Yep.
I've enjoyed all of these, and they each have had
Right.
a really nice cohesion in the flavor profile. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
why I think you guys picked for some really nice stuff.
Yeah. If you started drinking the Deer Hammer on December 31st and just kind of kept it solid till the ball dropped, you would enjoy January 2nd. you might miss January 1st.
True.
Because it and obviously not encouraging anybody overindulging, but the point is it is so rich and delicious and easy to drink. It's just something that it's kind of like a nice little it's a nice little hug, and I don't mean like the Kentucky hug thing. I mean it's just it feels comfortable, and
Mhm.
so
That's a good way to put it.
yeah. So if you place your order now at deerhammer.com, maybe it'll be here by New Year's Eve. I don't know. I'm not in charge of their shipping, but Mike,
Party
any thoughts?
supplies.
Oops, that's the wrong graphic. Sorry. There we go.
No, I mean they're all great, and honestly, I did put what was left in my glass of each one about even and made my little blend. Just saying, you might want to do it. But no, they're both whiskeys a year. Those are great choices. And your lists are great. and quite honestly, I have the cigar rye in the Brooklyn, and I've got a pick of Solomon Scott. I can't say enough about Buzzard Roost and what they're doing. I think it's great. And these are all fantastic selections that you guys made.
All right. So
Awesome.
what we got a couple of other things we want to talk about. So I'll circle back to this question in a minute. So we talked about the most surprising thing from 2022. What's the most disappointing thing?
And whiskey?
Yeah.
BS marketing.
Yeah, in whiskey.
Sorry.
No, BS marketing.
Yes.
I've had it enough, and then recently with other stuff and people trying to be edgy or trying to create something that doesn't exist, and failing at it. It's like, you know what? If the whiskey's good, people will go to it. You don't need to make up stories about it. You don't need to make up a fake history unless you're having fun with it like Glenn's Creek does, where it's like right off the bat, this is all crap and we're going to have fun with it, and you are too, or you're an idiot. Kind of like people who read The Onion and think it's real. That's,
Right.
So, but just the absolute BS marketing of stuff and people trying to create things and create frenzies and hype and stories and things that they just don't exist and they don't need to exist.
Yeah. But before we go past that, because we're going to dig that a little deeper. Spencer says the website says Deer Hammer Port is sold out. Guys, we broke the internet. Uh, Lenny, make more whiskey. What are you doing? Wake up.
It's a special holiday release.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me dive in on that for just a minute, because that was mine as well. Just deceptive marketing from distilleries. We don't need that. Okay. Shoot straight with us. Tell us what the real deal is. If your product's good, it won't matter. We don't need to be manipulated. You don't need to manipulate your customer base, because you run the risk that when they figure out that you're screwing with them, they won't come back. Because guess what? There's lots of other stuff to drink out there. Lots.
Yes.
Lots. And what you think may be creating an advantage for you may turn around and bite you in the butt. And we see it far too often. And I guess if you see it that often, it must be working with some folks. But I'm done with it. And there are a few brands, and I won't get into it tonight because we don't have that kind of time. But there are a few brands. I'm done with you. I give you a chance, I give you another chance, and you keep telling me the same bullcrap stories. Sorry, I'm not coming back. Now, or is anybody at these distilleries gonna lose any sleep over that? Nah, they don't care.
Nope.
But at some point, it'll come around.
Yeah.
Well, I know we talked to Fred Swanson. I know you had him on the show as well too.
Mm-hmm.
He said with distilleries, it just in the craft realm, you're kind of past that opening point of getting people to go back, again and again.
Mm-hmm.
If what you have isn't good, they're not going to come back. And if you burn someone, it's not. People are done with it too now. That may be the only progression in the whiskey realm is you're not getting that second chance anymore. There's so many people out there. If you disappoint people, that may be it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like you said with the marketing thing, I think everyone hates that.
Right.
The over bolstering of, just how good something is. I prefer someone to just put it on the table and maybe give you a story and give you a background. Let that play effect. But let that do the walking and talking for a brand. I get spin. I was in PR and advertising, and sometimes as it happens, it just makes my stomach curdle.
You mentioned Fred, so I want to give them kudos here. Dancing Goat Distillery. This is their limousine rye. All right. You look, you pick it up. If you're like me, you pick it up. You look at the front of the label for half a second, and I'm flipping it over to the back because I want to see what's what. And the first words on here: many sourced rye share the same mash bill as limousine rye, but that's where the similarities cease. And then they go through and talk about what they're doing differently. Okay, what's in this is the same thing that's in this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What these guys are doing with it is different than what these guys are doing with it. Both are outstanding. Okay. And both are very straightforward about the fact we're getting this from MGP, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. All right. But we're doing something different with it. To me, I applaud that. I commend that. That's fantastic. Don't tell me a bullcrap story.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Hey, one of the things about with as many people trying to differentiate themselves with a story or something unique, or even some of these legacy brands that old stories are coming up with legacy brands.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that bugs me is if the story is not accurate, or they either because they've just let urban legend take over and folklore, or they haven't corrected people, on as it goes. But the thing is, it does hurt you in the end because you've let it happen. It's like you could just say, well, guys, we appreciate that, and that's a great folklore story, but here's actually this is the real story, and be honest about it. Don't do as we have done, throughout our history and let it change because people retell the story over and over again verbally.
Right.
Do it right, be accurate, be honest. People aren't stupid. No one's going to shy away from you because you've told the truth, Just
the small differences are what make you special.
Yeah.
Right.
Even with this, what you're saying between those brands and what you were saying, Mike, the small little intricacies are what make a brand special, make you remember it on a tour.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and to go back to, just because the bottle's sitting in front of my face, Jason Bronner could have come up with a total BS story for Buzzard's Roost.
Sure.
He 100% could have come up with a total BS story about how it's created. But he's like, no, this is how it's created. And this is what we're doing. And straight up.
Right.
It's simple.
Yep.
It's not, what they're doing isn't simple, but the facts are simple. These are the facts. This is what we're doing. But he could have come up with some Fantasyland story about, well, my great grandfather was a distiller and did this. And he, he had it still on the back of a bicycle that it was powered by pedals.
And
he could have done all that.
His best friend was his buzzard. And
I was seriously spinning that already the whole time you said that.
Yeah.
I had half the story.
Yeah. Growing up in the treehouse of Colonel Harlan Sanders, I always wanted to be a distiller, Yeah.
All right. Anybody else on most disappointing? Anything?
Yeah, I've got two quick ones. Hopefully they'll be kind and not piss off any future show guests or anything. But the one that was tough for me this year was the Old Forester brand. I love Old Forester. Used to work for them. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of a lot of the people involved. The 117 releases and the birthday bourbon this year both just kind of fell flat. And similar to some of the things you guys are talking about, it's a lot of marketing BS, etc. So that was just kind of a struggle for me, just kind of letting go of the affinity that I had for that brand. I'll still try them all. I'll still get them all if I can. But you're seeing one of those brands that's kind of been fan focused or consumer focused before sort of get into the market and the hype. And I feel like lose sight of that. So there's been a lot of transitions, both from, the executive level and to the distillery level this year. So I know some of that plays a factor, but it's just one of those things that I've loved for a long time that just kind of fell flat for me this year. The other one, and I know this is a bigger conversation that we're all kind of a part of, is distillery allocations for stores that have been well known and have supported those distilleries for a long time. Kevin, you and I have a mutual love for Westport Whiskey and Wine.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we met and became friends and all that kind of stuff. But they were buying single barrels of a lot of these local Kentucky distilleries for a lot of years and are suddenly falling short on allocation. And that has just been really discouraging. It's been happening for a few years, but this year in particular, I feel like it's kind of taken some focus and become real clear that these distilleries just frankly don't give a damn about a lot of the people that brought them to the dance or helped promote them. So I would really love to see in 2023 some of that allocation conversation be differentiated to loyalty rather than the size of the market or how much Fireball or Wheatley or whatever you can buy as a store and push throughout the year. I know you guys, being in Green Bay and Kansas City probably feel it as much, if not more, than we do here in Kentucky. So what's the other one?
Yeah.
If we're doing Festivus errands of grievances, that's where I'm at this year.
I was just going to say, this has been the airing of the grievances. Then we'll move on to the feats of strength. So, okay, kind of on a more positive point.
Strength I got.
Got some barrel strength stuff over here. A favorite new distillery, and I don't mean one that just opened their doors this year, but a distillery that you first became aware of or tasted their products in 2022.
It's Brooklyn and Deer Hammer for me. We've talked about those both throughout the evening, but just incredibly surprised both by the category of American single malt and the quality of releases from both of those folks. So
I can't remember. I think it was Tattersall. I think is who it was. Shannon sent me a sample of it. I'm blanking right now, and it stinks. But I can't remember who it was. They were down in Texas, and I couldn't get a hold of anything.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about because I've got it sitting next to me. Because Talnua.
Sorry, thank you.
Making Irish whiskey in Texas.
Yeah, that one was. I knew about the release, and it was really stood up to what I was expecting. It was neat. The buttery note came through. Shire Distilling was good too. But yeah, that one, Talnua was one because I think Ben actually mentioned that last year. And I had one or two things since then, and they were both really, really neat. Really.
Yeah. Shannon, you're right.
Yeah, forgive us. I'm a few drinks.
Yes.
That's why
forgive us for we have sinned. But yeah, Shire was one, and Talnua, Colorado, not Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah. Those are two big ones for me. Also, what was the other one that I had? I have my toe dipped in the water last year, but didn't really get into it much. But this year, Golden Beaver. That was a lot. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Got that right here.
That's a good one.
And on Sealbox, last I checked, you could get that one and done, never to be repeated. The rice bourbon. It was still there the other day.
Okay. Check that out.
And that is good. Yeah.
Yep.
Free Ranch is good. I've had some of their stuff. Oh, sorry, I was reading comments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Shannon says Free Ranch. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. No, my list was Golden Beaver. That was the first one. What Chris Koenig is doing out there, I think, is very unique, very fantastic. They've just opened a new facility there, tasting room and such, and I got to find a way to get to Chico, California. So, the others that I would put on that list, Brooklyn, which Drew mentioned, and that single malt was on his list for nominees for Whiskey of the Year, and one that I knew of but hadn't really tried a lot of their stuff is Whiskey Del Bach out of Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, yeah, that's solid.
Brother. American single malt, mesquite smoked malt. Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And the Dorado, the Dorado is one that went into that Borrowed Page blend. But I got to find a way to get my hands on a cast strength version of that, because it's just incredibly good, and kind of the way I cut off the year for purposes of the show, that may be a nominee for 2023. So really enjoy it. You have a good steak, and with that Whiskey Del Bach Dorado, that'll do the trick. Mike, you're holding something up there. What do you got?
Yeah, this is another one from New York Distilling, the Ragtime Rye.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed these. I had a couple of picks of those.
Yeah,
really nice. Also, Sealbox, not sponsored.
Yes.
Whiskey Del Bach goes into that range of like solid for me. They're one of those people that if you go to very quiet, kind of like I'll go in the same realm, like Santa Fe Spirits. You're in the same area. They both use mesquite wood. Different releases completely, but wherever you go, whatever you get from them, I haven't had anything bad the whole time.
Yep.
I mean, it has made me think about a trip out there and just in that region between those two.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Blake needs to cut a check. I think that's what needs to happen here. No. you know, you want to talk, you know, something whiskey adjacent, you know, I guess, is what Blake's doing at Sealbox. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Their picks are exceptionally good. They've got a great variety of choices there. I ordered a couple of things from them this week. I ordered a Chattanooga whiskey experimental batch that is, I don't know, chocolate nibs and that kind of thing were involved in it. So I'm looking forward to trying that. And then I got 100% malted dry from Finger Lakes Distilling. So we'll see how that goes as well. They do some fun stuff. Most unique thing you tried this year?
Ooh.
We just talked about that. What are you looking forward to in 2023?
I'll jump on this.
What's that?
Yeah, more whiskey is correct.
Yeah.
No, I think more than anything this next year, I know there's tons of great releases coming out, but I'm really looking forward to spending more time with the folks from our community. You know, we got to do a little bit more of that this year. I know, Kevin, you took some road trips. Mike, you took some road trips. I'm hoping to next year. You know, getting to go to Bourbon on the Banks, getting to go to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, spending time, whether the whiskey is exceptional or not, just getting to spend more time with the people. You know, Shannon's been watching all night. I got to spend a lot of time with Shannon this year, both at planned things and unplanned things.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to spending more time with the folks that we have
Yep.
in our community.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mike?
I would agree with that. Hopefully get out and do some more whiskey adventures. Because meeting people is the most fun. Bourbon on the Banks was that was a great festival. I'm really looking forward to that. Hoping to get back to Distill America. That'd be fun. I'd like to be able to throw in another festival in there if possible. But yeah, that, like you said, meeting the people, not necessarily the reps that are there or whoever they've hired and quickly trained for the day, but at least, you know, meeting the people, sampling things, and I mean the people, the other attendees, you know, hanging out with people, talking with them, pre-parties, after parties, side parties. It's always a good time.
Nice. You can tell the difference between the person who is really involved with the brand and someone who is just like hired to be there that day.
Right.
Yes.
Because I'll be honest, some of those events have been where I've made some fantastic friends.
Right.
With owners of companies and stuff, where you have some and you're the person that's gobsmacked at that moment, and everyone else doing their own thing, and you're willing to corner the market on that person's time for a little bit. You know, how did you? I know you want to sample. How the fuck did you do this? You know, like what? I know it says cherry. You're you know, like you just get that excitement in you. Sorry, I had a flashback there for a moment. Sorry, I got all wound up. I missed that. That's the best thing about events is having that moment where something strikes you, and it doesn't have to be something you're expecting. I almost love it when it's something you're not expecting, and you have to go grab people and tell them about it. You know, that I don't know. I love that part.
Yeah.
As far as looking forward to something for next year, I'm looking forward to seeing where some of these craft distilleries go and the respect they get with another year under their belt. I feel like there's going to be a lot more places releasing 10-year releases or beyond this coming year. And I feel like all of those are going to demand a little bit more attention and make you look a little bit more towards craft. And I've had some 10-year releases that were anniversaries and they were not as wonderful, but you know, they made adjustments over those 10, you know, the first 3 or 4 years that they were doing something, but that's still the barrel from the one that's 10.
Right.
So I think you got to watch out for that, or at least preface that sometimes. But I think you're going to see a lot more. That's what I'm excited about is seeing some of like bigger releases from a lot of the craft distilleries, because you're going to be hitting a lot of 10-year marks and almost in some places 15-year marks with some of the stuff they're putting out. And that's where I think where we thought it was good at 5 or 8 or almost better. Here's your real comparison versus like you want to throw up a real big boy comparison, like, okay, the gauntlet's dropped now.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. I don't know that there's necessarily a specific, distillery release that I'm looking forward to in 2023. But I know that there are going to be some that are going to be really fun, really interesting. That will, some will surprise me, some will intrigue me, and some I won't like because that's just the way it goes. But I'm looking forward to that aspect of it, the unknown aspect of it. I don't, there are going to be people that will meet in 2023 that will become friends. People we have no idea who they are, or we may casually know what their name is, but during the course of this next year, we're going to make friends with folks, and that's exciting. I'm looking forward to going to Distill America this year. That'll be in May up in Madison, Wisconsin. Fred, I know Fred was on here a little while ago. I don't know if he's still on or not, but Fred Swanson kind of spearheads that. Fred's great. I mean, he is just an incredible ambassador for Dancing Goat, as well as for the Wisconsin whiskey distilleries and just a distillery community in general. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But there are going to be just different adventures as well. I mean, this year I was able to go up and visit Wisconsin with Pat, and last weekend? Yeah, last weekend went out and visited with Mike. There are other places I want to get to. I want to get down to Texas and have Shannon show us around. I want to get to Colorado and hang out with Lenny and Todd Leopold and those guys, and I want to get out to California because there are more distilleries in California than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
And guess what? We don't know them. We know maybe 2 or 3, right? So somebody's doing something, and it's just not getting here. Those are things that I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen, who we're going to have on this show, what we're going to do together, from this time last year to now. Things have changed on the show, but we have just been really blessed with the guests that we've had and the people that we've been able to meet and talk with, both on the whiskey side and the music side. And I know there are going to be people that during the course of the year that we're going to meet that we don't have any idea who they are right now, but we're going to have them as guests on the show, and they're going to be fantastic. And they're going to be people that we can support and encourage, and I think that's what makes this fun.
Yep, absolutely agreed.
All right. So, any final thoughts on any of this? Anything we've talked about?
You got my Festivus hate out, so that's good.
Yeah. Well,
kind of for the holiday.
Kind of purge, so we can kind of go into Christmas holidays and enjoy baby Jesus in the manger without hating our heart. Right?
Yeah, do it now before you get around your relatives. It's a good strategy.
Right. Serenity now.
Hey, keep an eye out on Yellowstone. I know we've talked a lot about them and given them a lot of praise, but talking to Fonte at Bourbon on the Banks and some other locations, they've got some really cool stuff out. And, Pat, you were talking about some cool releases coming out next year. Just keep an eye on those boys. It's going to be some cool stuff coming out.
Yeah. To me, Limestone Branch is one of the distilleries to really watch this year. because things have changed so much for them with MGP buying Luxco, which owned 51% of Limestone Branch. They've already done away with, and this was one of the disappointing things, but I didn't want to. I wanted to try to keep the tone of things from going too depressing during the holidays. But the doing away with the experimental series, the 375s. If you know what we're talking about, you know how we feel about it. Those going away, that's a disappointment, and I need those back. I think they meant a lot to the whiskey public, because they were experimental. They would do different things with it, and I hope that they'll be able to bring those back. But I think keep an eye on Limestone Branch. What happens there? What happens after the MGP acquisition? How does all that change? What's good? What's bad? They're coming out with an American single malt with the Yellowstone label on it that was distilled at MGP. So looking forward to trying that. But what I'm really looking forward to is, are you doing more of these? That's what I want to see, because I trust Stephen Beam and what he's doing, and very excited about that. And now I don't know, but I'll go into it with a positive outlook, positive attitude, and hopefully the experimental stuff going away only means that they're going to be great and positive things that they're using that energy towards down the road. So
you'd think they'd have to have some left over for a little while. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be sliding some out every now and then.
They're not going to release any more of that. Okay. I was down there, I don't know, a month or so ago to pick up a bottle of their toasted barrel Yellowstone, which is different. It is not this mash bill in a toasted barrel. Okay, we won't get into all that tonight, but it's different. And they've got that little cargo carrier rickhouse there with all those 15-gallon barrels in it. One side of it's completely empty, and the other is, I don't know, maybe half, 3/4 full. But what they're going to do with that, I'm not sure. But they're not going to show up in those 375 bottles. They're just not.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it gets blended in with other stuff or what. But we'll see. We'll see.
Store picks?
I don't think so.
I'm just trying to get it out of there.
I thought about, okay, nobody's looking. I can maybe can I carry a 15-gallon barrel full of whiskey? I don't know, but I could try. And can I get it to my car before I get arrested?
I'm picturing the scene in Superbad when he's running down the street carrying those jugs, just spilling all over the place.
We could Ocean's 11 it out of there, I guess. Fontaine may give us his key code to get in the place. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, Mike, my goal for 2023 is to get Wolfgang Van Halen and his mother Valerie Bertinelli on the show.
Holy shit!
So I volunteer to be a moderator.
We'll see if that happens. I'm going to try. I'm going to try very hard. Because as I've said before, I've kind of got a man crush on Wolfgang because he's just so darn talented. I mean, you've not he didn't have an album out this year. He's got an album coming out next year. That's one of the things to look forward to. If you haven't listened to that first Mammoth WVH album from 2021, you need to go back and listen to that. He plays every instrument on it. He does all the vocals on it. It's just fantastic. Yeah. And then Valerie Bertinelli was my first celebrity crush when I was a youngster. So that would kind of bookend life for me, I guess, in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. Fond memories of Miss Barbara Romano.
Oh man! All right, so let's start wrapping this thing up. Pat, Mike, talk about where folks can find you on social, please.
You can. Oh, go ahead.
Mine's short.
Yeah.
Monday nights, usually on my whiskey den. That's the best place to find me. I'm not very good about a lot of the other social media stuff, but that is the best place, and we appreciate people coming in there and chatting live, talking with us. With some of the best people in the chat. It's really fun to interact with them and also watch the conversations fly by there. And appreciative of all the people that do tune into the original My Whiskey Den, not the other My Whiskey Den, the original My Whiskey Den.
Yes, that's true. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a Twitter account, but no, we don't really pay attention to that. So if you want updates, please check there. And also tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock Central Time, God's time, stop in for the Brandy Bash, where we've been having a few drinks before the holiday season and talking about each one of these distilleries as we taste some of their stuff.
Drew?
Awesome. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at drew.crawley63 if you want to follow along for the music stuff. I'm on Twitter, but that seems to be going away very imminently. And then the dates that we talked about earlier for shows, if you're in the Louisville area or we'll be traveling through, I'd love to see you for a show. I've got a lot of very talented friends that are going to be coming out to hang out with me. If you're in the area, hit me up. I'd love to share a drink with you and take your song requests. So come check that out.
All right, Mike, time to earn your money, buddy. We didn't do it at the beginning. We're going to do it here at the end. So,
all right.
Action.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out. Always tune in on all of your applications and streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Is there another one I'm missing? I forget. Sorry, I'm on the spot here.
Google.
But Google. Use the Google. But yeah, always tune in. New episodes of Bourbon Turntable mostly come out Wednesday morning, and sometimes a live special one like there is tonight.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. I hope that was
that was great. You can use us. You can find us on YouTube if you want to watch the show and see these lovely guys here. If you just want to listen, and because you don't want to feel bad about yourself because you're not as lovely and beautiful, you can go to your favorite podcast platform. We have a Facebook page where is Pat okay? We have a Facebook
lovely
page.
And beautiful, and I kind of
we have a Facebook page where we release all of our shows every week. We have a Facebook group where we encourage you to participate. Tell everybody what you're drinking, what you're listening to. We want to know what music you love. We want to know what whiskey you love. Maybe it's something that somebody in the group hasn't experienced or hasn't listened to or drank before. So let us know what you got, and because that's the fun of this. That's what we want to be able to do. Blend the love of music with the love of whiskey. So with all that said, we wish a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. We will have a show coming up next week. Drew?
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Next week? Yep. We're going to have the guys from Lucky 7 on. Yep. And just a little preview of 2023. We've got some incredible shows lined up for you guys. So Jason Bronner, as previously mentioned, of Buzzard's Roost, will be on to kick off 2023 just as he did 2022. We're going to have Jason from Old 55 Distillery, Steve Bayshore from Mount Vernon, Tyler Mert, my close personal friend from Brown Foreman, is going to be on. Hopefully I didn't piss him off too bad tonight. And Thad Heist of Wilderness Trail. So we've got another incredible set of shows to start off the new year with you all. Hope you'll tune in for those.
Yeah, I'm sending samples to Pat. Okay, and they said that's the first time that anybody sent them samples for a show. So you'll want to be sure to tune in to see exactly what that's about. because that'll be fun.
I hope you're sending him a wilderness trail sample.
Who knows? Who knows?
It's a blind.
All right. Hey, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Pat and Mike for joining us. We do appreciate your support and friendship, and for everybody that's been watching, been in the chat. Thank you for participating as well. We want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. And as always, cheers, love, and Freebird.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody. Travel safe.